Welcome to Surrender School.
So let's begin with the mission statement. There we go. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the traditions. All right. So these are new slides, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the surrenderschool.org website and all the things that we offer. So first of all, we have 2 workshops that are going on right now. That's this one, the Supercharge Your Recovery, which is Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. You may want to take a picture of this screen because it's all the things that we offer right now. And then there's also Step 1 Science, which is Saturdays, February 1st through March 15th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, those are the 2 workshops that we have going on right now. In addition to that, we have a book study. And a book study, the difference between a book study and a reading room, a book study, you read on your own and then come in and learn more. A reading room, you read the book together during the session and also share on it. So the book study is The Alchemy of the Enneagram and Transforming Addiction with Michael Naylor. It is monthly on Mondays at 10:30 a.m. to noon. See the website for the dates. And then we have a reading room where we read together. We have a Drop the Rock one, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, an Eating by the Light of the Moon, Monday at 9:15 Pacific, and Emotional Sobriety, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I do want to say, too, under the Supercharge Your Recovery, about like at the top of the thing there, we have office hours that are about the Enneagram, Monday and Thursday at 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So that's office hours tied to the Enneagram. And we also have the Emotional Sobriety Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 8 to 9. All right. In addition to that, I want to spend a little bit of time going into something here, and that is the Step 1 Science, which is already begun. It's Saturdays at 9 a.m. Very, very good, very powerful. Everybody that attends it is just kind of blown away by it. There is some homework that you need to do for it, so just be sure that you are taking a look at that if you like. Once again, out on surrenderschool.org. There's also going to be a First Friday Enneagram Exchange, which is a podcast style conversation between me and Michael Naylor and other guests that we have. It'll include interviews and that kind of stuff. Also, the ability to ask Michael Naylor questions, which is awesome. That starts March 7th. In the meantime, because we've already reserved that First Friday, Michael Naylor has agreed to teach the instincts, all about the instincts, this coming Friday, February 7th at 8 a.m. Pacific. It'll be about an hour long and maybe an hour and a half long. And he will cover it and then all kinds of questions. So all of you that have been coming to me to ask questions about the instincts, we're going to ask them of Michael Naylor because I think that's really very cool stuff. So put that on your calendars if you would. All right. And then finally, all right, I want you to consider taking, experiencing, working, attending these things. Taking the past workshops or book studies that are on the website, experience them in the meditation by step. There are meditations by step out there. So I should probably include that in these as we're working the steps. One of these, I'll do that. Okay, and then working through the step study, alone or with a sponsor. There's a step study out there that you can do by yourself or with a sponsor. And then also attending the in-person retreat, which is August of 2025. All right, all of this can be found on surrenderschool.org. So I'm going to really, really encourage you to basically serve yourself by going out and getting used to the surrenderschool.org site. Wander around, kind of get to know it as much as you can. Also, please consider becoming a volunteer. Reach out to Trish if you have if you have an ability of any sort, if you'd like. I mean, everything from being one of the leaders of the breakout rooms here to being one of the people that admit people in from the waiting room, to working on, becoming part of the board. I mean, there's all kinds of volunteer positions. So just reach out to Trish. She's the volunteer coordinator. All right. If Surrender School has helped your recovery, please donate. There is a donate button on the website's front page. Just click on that. You can use a credit card or PayPal or whatever. Please consider doing that. We do have expenses. We are a 501(c), which means you can, in the United States, you can deduct any donation that you give. All right. Surrender School WhatsApp group. Right now, the QR code that was out there is invalid, so I pulled it down, but we can go ahead if somebody can post the invitation for the WhatsApp group out there. Also, somebody suggested, and I like this idea, sign up for a daily Ennea thought from the EnneagramInstitute.com. By the way, that is Enneagram no space institute. It's all like one word at EnneagramInstitute.com. And you can choose two. So you would do like two types. So your own type and maybe one of your wings, or your own type and your husband's type, or something like that. It's helpful. Okay. All right. Now let's take a moment to kind of just make sure that we are present. Take a moment to feel your breath going in and out. And feel your feet on the floor. Let go of everything before now and everything in the future. And together, let's say the set aside prayer. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. All right, so the goal of this is a personal journey. Our focus is to help you understand the relationship between your false self, how you show up in the world, and your true self, and to treat yourself with unrelenting compassion because you are human. Okay, some things to keep in mind. This whole session, this whole year, we're spending the time working the step by type. So if you have not taken a test yet, you'll want to do that because that helps you determine your type, and then you can answer the question for your type. Otherwise, it's like way too much information. We know that from last year. Okay. Self-contempt stops spiritual growth. And that's one of the reasons I talk about unrelenting compassion. At least for me, it's as if my higher power says you can hate yourself or you can grow spiritually, but you can't do both simultaneously. I'm choosing spiritual growth. So that whole, I hate myself, calling myself bad names, all of that, I give that a rest. I most of the time don't do that anymore. We believe that if you do the work, your program will be supercharged. And I want to remind everybody because, and this ties back, Trish, to what you said a few minutes ago. I want to remind everybody that we're all in different places. We're all in different stuff, right? You can be whatever you want to be, but here, be kind. Just be kind. Remind yourself, ask yourself, is this a kind thing for me to say or even think? Be kind to one another. All right. Smarter people than me have said that before, by the way. So, okay. All right. So the plan basically is very simply in the main room, which is where we are right now. We share a little, I cover a little bit of information. We go into a breakout room, which is randomly assigned by Zoom. We don't do that. And you share your experiencing strength and hope on the weekly question. So you read the question first at the top of the page. You have your question written, you read your question, and then you share. And then we come back together afterward. And any comments that you want to make that weren't about the question of the week belong in the main room, not in the breakouts, because the breakouts are all about the questions. Okay. And then I'm going to walk you through the website at the end of the session today because there's been some changes and we think they're improvements, but I want to be sure that nobody gets lost. Well, I think we listen to comments and we make it better. All right. This is a quote from Michael Naylor's Alchemy book on page 5. And I think it is extremely compelling and it tells us a lot about ourselves. Every addicted individual has a type-specific blind spot, a psychological prison consisting of 1, a core fear that drives her suffering or his suffering. 2, a deep wish to return to what is authentic and true within herself or himself. And 3, a fundamental commandment of who she must be to be loved. So once again, the core fear that drives suffering, the deep wish to return to their true self, and a fundamental commandment that they probably learned in childhood of what that person has to do to be loved. And that is basically, once we learn those things about ourselves is when we start seeing ourselves and catching ourselves in the act and doing all of that kind of stuff. Okay. These are the mantras for each of these. I'm not going to cover them. If you don't know your mantra, take a picture of this screen. And whenever there's something up there, if you need me to, just say, leave it up there. I need to grab a picture. And so some of it you can take a picture with the camera. If you're on your phone, you can actually, take a picture of the screenshot.
Cheryl?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you please just put the slide up just one more time for like 32? Thank you so much.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. So whoever said that, I couldn't see who you were, but yeah,
Jennifer.
exactly. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. If you need me to, just do exactly what she just did and say, could you put that back up? Because I want to take a picture of it or write it down or whatever. Okay. You let me know when you're good.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. All right, so these are the mantras. Take a picture if you want to. Go ahead and grab that. And they're found a lot of different places, certainly out on the website you can find it. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to share, and I want to talk about, did anybody have, when you looked at the difficulties by type, did anybody have any experience with that? So I'm going to stop sharing, which brings us back here. Anybody want to share on the difficulties by type? And the difficulty is for step 1 and your type.
Where do we find that?
It's in the same slideshow as the question. This week it is.
Oh, great. Got it.
Okay. Nobody wants to share on that. Did anybody have difficulties by type? You're all just anxious to get into the breakout rooms, aren't you? All right, we're good with that. I love it. Okay.
I'll share, Shirley.
Okay, go ahead, Shirley.
Okay, so I found that I'm a type 2, and I found that what was very difficult about this week's homework or assignment was that my mind kept wanting to go to solutions, and I don't have the solutions. And it was really about just, whoa, big boy, like holding myself back and realizing that step 1 is just acknowledging what's going on here. Where have I, how did I get here? Where am I? So that's it. It just was extremely difficult. I kept wanting to solve this, get it done. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And Richard, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Type 1. So I think the hard thing for me is when everyone else would say, this is great. And I'm still looking for perfection. I'm still looking for that extra millimeter or micrometer of improvement. And, when can I just simply leave it alone and say, you know what, good enough.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, absolutely. Once. And you know what's really interesting? All of us have that, usually one thing, sometimes 10 things that's like, oh, why am I like this? Right. And 8s are obvious. 1s are pretty obvious too. So, we want to be the mystery in the room and we're not. Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. Jennifer, to you.
Yes, hi. So I missed last week and listened to the recording before this, and it was so illuminating. Again, I've studied the Enneagram for my type of the Enneagram for years, and back on the 12 step, but the two together, because you were so right when you said that a 6, step 1, which I thought was okay with me because I do have religious background that morphed into spiritual background. And so I have a conception of both what I grew up with and what I have changed it to. I always thought my problem was with step 3 because I was not willing to turn my will in life. I believed that it was there, but I wasn't willing to turn my will in my life over to it. But hearing what you said about step 1, and it's like, if I don't know who I'm supposed to be surrendering to and what it is that I'm supposed to be surrendering, the abject fear and terror, the existential fear and terror that has always put in me, and this helplessness because I want to believe, I want to do it, but there's just something in me where that feels like just like a non-starter. And so really breaking it down and answering this particular set of questions, even though the previous ones, has just helped me get it and dissect and analyze the nuances, which have been so important all this time. So thank you for
Awesome.
all
Thank
of
you, Jennifer. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I felt, yeah, very similar to that on step 1. Thank you. Linda T, to you.
Hey, so my difficulty for step 1, I'm a type 6, is I can't trust something I can't see. And I think that's why, like, I went off into the science of step one, because I needed to know why I was powerless over food before I could admit it, and more importantly, accept it. And so yeah, so that was, and it's true. Trust is like, woo, for me. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, the sixes. Yep, absolutely. Okay, Carmen, to you.
So I'm a 9, and the reason that step one may be hard for me, it says, this feels uncomfortable. I'd rather be numb and uncomfortable. And what I'm realizing now is that I have a choice. I can be numb and uncomfortable in the old way, which is safe. And I can be uncomfortable in the new way, which helps me grow. And as I'm doing these questions, and as I've been studying the Enneagram, because the Enneagram is so specific for my type, I'm realizing what's out there for me to grow into in a very, very positive way. So the being uncomfortable right now is worth it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Carmen. Ty, to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. How you doing? So the need to keep the perfect illusion going. Yeah, for type 1, that's it. That's a whole mouthful, actually. The need to feel like everything has to be perfect. Like I'm realizing that more and more now. Like I didn't know that I was doing that. But now the more I do this work, it's like, oh yeah, like even with the monthly challenge, before I knew I should have asked the whole seek criticism thing, but I was like, I am not doing that. I don't need it. I'm good on that. But this go around, like I did it, and I realized how nerve-wracking it is. Like, but it's like you're human. You're not perfect. So, well, yeah, just to know that and to be okay with that. To be okay. Like I've started saying, like with Brene Brown with her book Imperfect, I'm perfectly imperfect. And I'm okay with that. So I'm starting to say that more to myself so that I can actually feel it. Like now I know I'm saying it because I really want to say it and I really want myself to know that. But I know it's something that I have to practice. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ty. And actually, that's the reason for the mantras, because it's like if you continually, it's almost like that pause that Bill W. talks about when I pause it when in doubt. And what I drop into that pause now is the mantra. That's why it's so important to learn the mantra, not just like have it ready for the meeting, but actually incorporate it into your life, because it will help soften that. Right, that was designed by some Enneagram guru of some sort. I don't even know who. I borrowed it from somebody who got it from somebody else. But that's what, if you use that, and once again, 9s almost always change it, which I think is actually awesome to do that to something like you just talked about, right? That now in the very first video,
but I will say I still use it's not always my responsibility. I'm
Yeah.
glad you actually brought that out, because the first time, like last year when I went through, I was like, what's she talking about? It's not my responsibility. I don't act like it's always my responsibility. Then after a few weeks, I was like, ooh, yes, I do. I actually get in my own way, and I get in their way. I get in my own growth way, and I get in their growth way too, because other people have to grow too.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I realized that too, I was like, oh, I try to save people from the hurt sometimes. I can't do that. That's not my job.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ty. And I want to say too, I think that in the very first video of this series, I cover what is the cognitive error that each of the different types have. And one has the cognitive error that I should be perfect and life should be perfect, right? That is the cognitive error for the 1. Right? And for the 8, it is that I feel like if I'm in control, that I'm supposed to be in control of the entire fucking world. That's not the mantra, by the way, but sometimes it feels like it is. All right. Thank you so much, Ty. All right, Melissa, to you.
Good morning. I'm wondering, before I even share, do you happen to know off the top of your head, what is the cognitive error for type 4?
I can look it up while you're.
Well, I'm sharing because I'll share what my difficulty for why is this type 4 have trouble with their type step 1. And it says on the page, and by the way, somebody was asking in chat, where do you find that? It's basically the second time when you're clicking around on Supercharge Your Recovery, you get to another page. It's at the bottom. Don't click on your individual type yet. Go to the bottom. Anyway, you'll find it. I'm looking at it right now, and it says, for a type 4, my need to feel intense emotions prevents me from seeing my powerlessness. And I will tell you, my inability to control my intense emotions prevents me from seeing reality. Full stop. My intense emotions are something I have to walk with and learn how to modulate. And I know that step 1 implies surrender to powerlessness in all ways, in all areas. I am not just powerless over the kooky things I used to do with food in my body. I am powerless over people. I am powerless over situations. And there's hope in that, because when I know I'm not the king of the universe with my magic wand making people behave the way I want them to, and I remember that, I might be more comfortable, because there we go. What is my lie? What is my lie?
I am unique, and people need to know that. And here's what's interesting. The people need to know that is the part, because a lot of times what will happen is 4s are shy about, they don't want people to say you're so special. They don't like that, but they really need for people to understand they're unique. So
You know what?
the
That's awesome.
misunderstanding that they live under is that I am unique. And people need to know I'm unique, but don't tell me I'm unique. I mean, it's that push you pull me kind of thing. And that is that burden that 4s live under, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And I feel like that second part of the sentence about people need to know that there's like a secret screaming rage inside a 4, as this 4, I'll tell you what, that's like, don't you understand how hard it is for me to think right now because my emotions are a tsunami? I want to scream that at people. They don't know that. They don't experience that. But I am in such agony when I have been hijacked by my emotions that I look like maybe a little bit of The Exorcist. I don't know, just like a little bit crazy. And I feel sorry for people that are really close to me, because I go, sanity will prevail, just not right now. I can't get in my sane brain. I have to almost sleep to be restored to sanity. I'm saying that with tears in my eyes, because it's a little embarrassing to feel led around by your emotions, because you feel like a 3-year-old, and it's embarrassing that you can't control. But I think in time, with emotional sobriety work and our beautiful things we offer at Surrender School, we just learn how to soothe while we're insane, if that makes sense. Soothe with spiritual solutions while we're insane. And know that sanity will find us again, because I believe that's how God works. God finds you. You just don't close the door on him. Say, God, please rescue me in my insanity right now. Come find me. Give me a clue. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Thanks, Melissa. Sarah, to you.
Hi, I'm Sarah. First, I want to say my best friend in the entire world is a 4, and Melissa almost made me. I almost feel like crying because she's really going through something right now. And so, anyway, thank you for sharing that, Melissa. I'm a 2, which also explains why I felt that way, probably. And I was looking at my question, and it is, or the what makes step 1 difficult for my type. I seek myself and others to be loved. How could someone so giving be an addict? I remember when I first worked, I laugh because I totally relate. Because when I was working my step 8, making amends, 8, 9, I was like absolutely heartbroken, shattered, because I realized that that had been this self-righteous attitude had been the way I've been approaching things. And it's not that I didn't want to make amends or make apologies. I honestly don't have a problem with that. But it was coming to terms with the fact that I had hurt people, or my behaviors had hurt people, and it wasn't intentional, obviously, but my manipulating or my trying to control so that I could feel safe. Sorry, my cat, he thinks he needs to be a part of all discussions. So it was a painful realization for me as a two. I mean, I know we're talking about step one, but that really reminded me a lot of the emotions I felt when I was working my amends steps. And I had to make amends to a coworker who I had treated very poorly because I thought he was dumb, which is something codependent. I'm a codependent. We also rank people and we don't, but anyway, I had to make amends, and I felt embarrassed later thinking, how could I have treated that person so badly because I didn't think that they were a valuable like it was such a like embarrassing, like I feel embarrassed talking about it because that's such a shitty thing to think about someone. But um anyway, I just wanted to say that I related to that. Oh, now the other cat's coming. So I just wanted to say I related to that, and I think it is difficult for a two, or for me as a two, I can't speak for all twos, to even think that I could ever do anything to hurt somebody else because I'm always thinking about somebody else, coming to the realization that sometimes trying to control people or trying to get other people to solve that internal sadness that I had, or that fear of not being loved, that was hurting people. That was manipulative, pushing people away, or making, pushing myself away. So I had to make amends to myself too. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll pass. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And I want to say too, so Joy has a list. I haven't incorporated it yet, but I'm going to, and it's a list of the things each type does not want to be called, right? Like I don't like to be called bossy. I'm bossy as shit, but I don't want to be called bossy, right? And twos don't want to be called selfish. Twos hate to be called selfish, right? So, so the list is wonderful. And Joy gave it to me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to incorporate this somewhere. I don't know where, but it's going to be somewhere. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. All right, Lori, to you, and then Liz, and then Dave, and then Alham, and then we need to move on. So go ahead, Lori, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Cher. Lori, compulsive overeater, and my difficulty with step one is this feels uncomfortable. I'd rather be numb and comfortable. And that is how I led my life. And I numbed with food to the point of a very unhealthy body. I've healed my body as much as possible, but I'm still dealing with my mind. I still want to hide and not deal with things. I'd rather be comfortable and numb than deal with anything at all. But, I just was realizing it this morning and listening and just my experience over the last few days being involved in new things, that I am learning in this program. I'm learning in this program how to be present, how to be involved, how to speak up, but not wait till my prior way was waiting until I blew up instead of just speaking up and talking and sharing. Doesn't have to go that far. We can have a conversation, but that is very difficult for me. But I'm learning all of that in this program, and particularly in doing service. And I just need to be able to translate that into my personal life, because that's not happened yet. I struggle with speaking up to my family, my husband, and for no reason. I mean, there's not like there's any kind of, he's great. He's patient and kind, but I don't like speaking up for what I want or what my opinions are. And it's kind of just coming to a head because it's just the frustration is there with myself. But I will learn, and I'm learning in this program. So thank you, Sharon, everybody.
And thank you, Lori. And I'll tell you that this is where I'm wired that way, right? Because it feels weird. I don't express my opinion, then explode. I mean, I don't do that. I explode immediately, but nines, right? Delay and then explode. And it's like that connection between those, not saying anything, and then having all this need to say something, and it comes out of you. That is so typical of a nine, like an average healthy nine, right? Not a healthy nine, but an average health. And it's like, and once you see that, then forgive yourself. Feel compassion for yourself. Oh, I'm wired like this. Okay. So that is the false self that's protecting me because I'm avoiding conflict at all costs, right? But eventually the conflict has to come up because you do have an opinion, right? And that's how we see our growth. Awareness first. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Then acceptance. Okay, I'm human. And then action, right? And it happens in that, whether we try to white knuckle it or not, it happens that way. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Lori. All right, Liz, to you.
Hi, I'm Liz and I am a 4. So the difficulty is wanting to stay in a fantasy, ethereal, virtual world because facing reality like, oh, I am powerless and my life is unmanageable. It's going to be so hard. So that's powerful. So, and so much so that, like today, I would have preferred to stay in a fantasy world of watching a series but coming here because it's getting serious. And I can almost tell myself, because I want so much to stay in that fantasy, that I tell myself the fantasy that you all have a problem that I don't have. And so I didn't need to show up and do the work. So I'm here.
And I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Liz. Dave, to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave, and I identify as an 8. And my, what was it called? Difficulty with step 1 is if I'm not in charge, who else will be in charge? If I am in charge, I will manage. And that question is really, for me, where a lot of my growth is that I'm finding, I was just thinking, even within this group, I've been to lots of things where people who were other types are in charge, and being in charge is in my comfort zone. Being in charge is not in some of their comfort zones, but I've seen, workshops and studies and stuff led by 9s and 2s and 4s and everything else. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. And I have learned more from seeing other people's leadership styles than just continuing to do my own. And I've started to incorporate some of those and think maybe I can file off some of these sharp edges of me being sure I know the right way to do things by learning from somebody else. And that to me is the real benefit of doing the work that we do here as a group. So I just appreciate hearing from all the other people who are willing to step out of their comfort zone and be a leader. If we don't have enough 8s to lead all the breakout rooms, we've got every type leading breakout rooms, and that's great. I love that. So I wish I could go to some of those breakout rooms. Maybe I will sometime. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Elham, to you. And then that's the final share before we move on. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. As type 4 that I believe I am, I actually I'm printing the things that I see is important for me. And the one is about the passions. I identify with all of them besides the number 7. For some reason, all equally I feel is about me. But then why step 1 is difficult for me is because of my high emotions. I am worried if I let go, it will be out of control, and then it will be disaster, and I cannot make up for it, and will be too late, and all the worst thinking. And then I want to just continue, and it's hard for me to admit I'm powerless because I'm scared if I let go. That's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Thank you so much for that, everybody who shared. I think today a lot of people shared to be because I look so sad not having people sharing. Okay. All right. So real quick, again, I want to cover definitions here and then talk about how I want you to use it. So the passion is basically the emotional state of the heart disconnected from the true self. And the virtue is the gift of the spirit for my type, which is the reward I get for kind of approaching those moments I have true self, that I'm in my true self. Okay, so I want you to begin thinking about your passions as your defects. So whenever you hear the word Enneagram passion, just think in our program defects or defenses, if that's what you do. And then also the moments that you feel like, oh, this is me. I call it moments of bliss, when I'm like, yes, this is me. This is me when I'm kind and giving and loving. There's no hooks. I'm just, it's bliss. Consider that the gift of the spirit. And that's what the virtue is. The virtue is the gift of the spirit, whatever higher power you perceive, right? It's the gift of the spirit. That's what the virtue is. Okay, so if you think of it kind of in those terms, I think it makes Enneagram a little bit easier, because they're terms that we've grown accustomed to through the years. All right. I'm not going to cover this. Obviously, there's a million things here. What I want to point out later on, I'll take you through the website, because you have a fill-in sheet for your type. And if you haven't figured it out by now, right, if you are a 2, that little dog, that little cartoon, and I've changed it to a cartoon dog, that little dog is yours, right? The little tiger, the tiger cub is the 4. The sloth is the 9, right? So whenever you see that, because we put that in a lot of places, so then you orient yourself to that and go, yeah, this is right. That's why we use that. Our brains work in icons, so it makes sense. There is a fill-in sheet that covers everything that we have covered so far and a little bit more. So what you want to do is go out to the where you find your question. One of the slides there is your fill out sheet for your type. And so you'll want to fill it out as much as you feel comfortable doing. I'm going to cover it next week, so you want to print it out this week. Okay, so that's the reason these are up here. You will find that in the slide deck for your type, where your question is. The first slide is that salmon slide that has your question on it. And then below that is your fill-in sheet. All right, real quick, I just want to cover. The 8, 9, and 1 are called the body or instinctual triad. Sometimes they say center, right? And those are the ones at the top, the 8, 9, and 1. All right, the heart triad is called the feeling triad, is the 2, 3, and 4. And then the head or thinking triad is the 5, 6, or 7, 5, 6, and 7. All right, I want to talk a little bit about kind of how they experience the world. The head types, the 5, 6, and 7, right? The future is where they're very focused on the future. All of us don't know this, by the way. We think we all see the world the same. We don't. So what happens with the 5, 6, and 7 is they look into the future, and the future is very real to them. The 7 is always looking for what is next, right? They're pitched into the future. The 6 is making lists of what all the horrible things that could possibly happen in the future, right? And the 5 says, if I know enough, I'll be safe. If I know enough, I'll be happy. If I know enough, I'll be all is good. So they're all looking at the future. So the future is very, very real, more than the other types for the 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to drop down to the bottom. For the heart types, the past is very alive for them. That is the 2, 3, and 4. Okay, the past is very alive. I have a quick example. My brother was over here yesterday. He is a 4, and he was talking about somebody in the 8th grade that treated him badly. The 8th grade. He is 66 years old. The 8th grade. I don't even remember what school I went to in the 8th grade. I do. I'm kidding about that. But it's like, what? I mean, because that's so foreign to me. Because to the heart types, the past is alive. It's alive for them. Way more than all the rest of us. And then the body types, it's the present. It doesn't mean we're Zen and live in the present. It just means the past is not real to me, or is not alive to me. The future isn't real. I live here. I can be happy or unhappy, but it's all here. Everything that I'm doing is here. Okay, so just a little bit about that so that you know, and some of that, and once again, when I cover this stuff, it's so that you can feel compassion for yourself and for other people, because I do feel bad for my brother that he can vividly remember something that happened bad to him in the 8th grade. That's really sad. Okay, once again, we're going to go out to the breakout rooms now. We're in pretty good shape. So, and once again, the type question of the week, you want to read your question first and then do that. Determining your type is a solo exercise, not intended to be done here, and certainly not intended to be done in the breakout room. So what's going to happen is, Joy, are you ready to do the breakout rooms?
I am having a little difficulty. I will let you know as soon as I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, okay, good. All right. So, we're going to send you, when it's time, we're going to send you, I'm going to share. So, this is what your slide deck looked like that you just did this week. And it had the salmon colored slide was first.
Speed check recorded ahead on I-75.
There's somebody that needs to be muted. Thank you. Okay, so the salmon slide is first, then it said step 1, type 2 for question 4, then it had the monthly step up challenge, and then the difficulty by type. That is what you have gotten in the past. So what you're going to be getting, I'm going to walk you through the website because I want you to see how it has changed, and then I'll explain kind of why it's changed. So hold on a second. Let me go to the website here. And all right, let me go back to, I'm going to go back to home. All right, so when you first come in, you're on Surrender School. Always under everything we offer, if you go down a little ways, you will see Supercharge Your Recovery. If you click on that, you will come to a page. The top still stays looks the same. And basically that page will have each of the different types here. You will pick your type. I'm going to pick mine because I am an 8. So I pick 8 and it brings me to another page. And on that page, you will see Enneagram type 8. It has my icon, which is the lion. I'm the lion-hearted protector. It has in my vulnerability lies my strength, my mantra. And then down on the left, or down here further, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the different weeks with the dates related to that. Now, this is someplace that's changed. So one thing that's changed, instead of, I'm an old teacher, so it's like I do things chronologically, and that was confusing to people. So now it says at the top of that, breakout rooms will focus on this question. So on this date, which is 2/2, we are focusing on step 1, question 4. If I click on that, right, this is what you did this week. You have what I just showed you, except obviously this is the 8. This is the question 4 for that, and it has all that same information that I showed you. All right, now I'm going to go back to that, and I want to talk for a second about that. So this week, your question is sitting here, and it is step 2, question 1. And what it will look like is it has the question and then the fill-in sheet, which I talked about earlier for your type. It has a fill-in sheet. This is the last week that we will have this spoon-fed to you like this. It's the last time. I'll explain here in a second why. So it will have your question at the top, which is your question by type. This is type 2. This is step 2, question 1 for type 8, and it has the fill-in sheet, which you will want to print out. Okay, now from here on, what will happen is when you click on that step 2, question 2, you basically will go to the question. The other thing that will happen is as the questions have been finished, well, let me back up. Actually, so if you notice that step 1 here at the top, step 1 and step 2 are highlighted. The reason that they're highlighted is because they are a link, right? You see that they're underlined, they are a link. All the rest of them, they're not linked yet. So for step 1, it has all 4 of the questions under that. And for step 2, it has all 4 of the questions as well. So you will want to look. So once again, it has all 4 questions for step 2. All right, let me go back there. All right. And what you do is you know that we are going to be talking about step 2, question 1 on 2/9. Okay, so you see here week 6 is February 9th, next Sunday. We are going to be talking about step 2, question 1. So we think that's going to make it easier for everybody because all you do is click on that. And what will happen this week, you'll click on that because we have one more week because it has the fill-in sheet. But after that, you're going to basically on the 16th, we will be talking about step 2, question 2, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Can I see some nods? Okay, because the idea here is we're making this simple. The reason we are, what I was doing initially was not only the one PowerPoint that I teach from, but all 9 PowerPoints with all of the different pieces, and it got to be a little much. And so I went back to to Joy and company and just said, I think this is going to be too much for me. I think it's got 50 weeks left and I'm already tired. So they're making it simpler for me, but I also think it's simple for you now that you know that's that. So all you really need to do is look at the date and know what the question is, and then kind of come in here. And once again, you'll see the 4 questions are there. Which week of the month are we going? Which one are we talking about? The first question, the second question, the third question, and the fourth question. So that's all you pretty much need to know. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint. And we will do that. All right. Okay, so yeah, we took care of that. All right, so once again, now what will happen is you'll go to the website, find the Supercharge Your Recovery page, find your type, and at the top, basically, you click on that and it takes you to those 4 things. So the little thing with the salmon colored slide will be no more. You'll come to class, learn a bit more about the Enneagram, read your question, share in the breakout, and then the next week you'll do the same thing. So we hope that that will help you do all of that. For more sharing, come to office hours, Monday and Thursday. All right, so now I'm good. We're actually in decent shape here time-wise, if we want to be. Let me go back out here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and let's go ahead and come back up. Does anybody want to share on anything that you've discovered this week or during the breakout session? Whatever you want to share on, please feel free. Love to have that. Or if you have questions that we can answer. All right, it looks like Jennifer, I think you have your hand up.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. One, oh goodness. Phew, just went right out of my head. The second one is personal to me. In terms of the arrows and the slide that you just showed for a 6, it indicates that, well, I always was taught that my direction of stress was a 3 and my direction of growth was a 9. But the arrows seem to say that I'm moving towards striving and away from the 9. Could you clarify?
Yeah, so one of the things that's happening recently, let me go ahead and make this lighter so that I show up as I'm sitting in the dark. I can't find a light that will light me up, so I just make my PowerPoint white. Okay, so the most recent view, and this is from Russ Hudson and company. I went to a Russ Hudson seminar. The belief is it used to be that you disintegrate, you integrate into one and you disintegrate into the other. And what Russ Hudson now believes, right, and he's one that I really, and I think Michael Naylor believes this too, is that your level of health, which we'll cover later, whatever level of health that you're at, when you what they call disintegrate, when you move toward they'll say that during stress you move somewhere. What Russ Hudson says is you move at the same level of health that you are in your that you are. So it's not like you drop down. So I'm an 8 and I under stress go to 5. And I don't like suddenly become a hermit. I don't become the Unabomber because I go to 5. Whatever my level of health is, I go across to that. So I just safely say I need to be alone a little bit. That's my 5, right? And then I grow toward a 2, which makes me kinder and nicer and all that, without the basic fear of the 2 of being unloved. So that's the cool part, is I can incorporate those arrows in that way. So I don't cover so much the idea that you regress to one and progress to the other, because I think both of them are growth opportunities for you. One you will go to under stress and one you will grow, but both of them can be growth paths. Does that make sense?
It does make a lot. I'll just study it and look at it, but that
Okay.
makes sense in terms of evolution of the theory. I remember what my general question was. Is there any way that you would consider having office hours during after work hours, or on the weekend? I mean, like one option for office hours, because I simply cannot during the workday.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few people. Yes, I would consider that for sure. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I would love to be able to attend.
are you on WhatsApp, Jennifer?
No.
Okay. All right. So stay on after the thing and let's talk and see if we can find a good time. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Fiona, to you, if you can. Are you able? able to
Yeah,
unmute.
sorry,
There you
sorry, I couldn't unmute. Yeah, hi, everybody. And Cheryl, yeah, you said something last week that that's a penny dropping when you said fours get their sense of self from outside themselves. And my ears just picked up. It was like a light bulb moment. Could you just, share any more on that? I just,
Yeah, I think so. The first thing I want to share is that all of us believe that everyone is like us. We all think that we all see the world the same way, that we experience the world the same way. And what I've learned from the Enneagram is that is just absolutely not true. The way that the fours kind of have a view of the world that is similar, but it is very dissimilar from the eights. So the best example that I can give as an eight, I do not. I mean, do I a little care what other people think? Sure, but I don't get my value does not come from outside. It comes from inside. And it doesn't mean that you should all be like this because you're not wired that way, right? So, but when I first came to program, I would sit in program and I'd listen in meetings, and there would be somebody who's clearly a two who would say, I always put other people first, right? And inside my head, I'm rolling my eyes going, yeah, me too, whatever, right? Because that's just so foreign to me. And the same thing with the four, right? The four keys in on drama, feels other people's feelings, all that kind of stuff. I don't. This doesn't make me wrong. It just makes me an eight, right? So it's like, and once I realized that, I'm like, oh, they actually feel that way. So the 2, 3s, and 4s, right? Absolutely, they get their value from outside of themselves. So their view of themselves is very colored by the outside world. Whereas the 8, 9, and 1, our value is from internally, and the 8s basically show up in a certain way, the 9s in another way, the 1s in another way, but almost always it's self-determined. So the 1, it isn't other people telling them they have to be perfect. It's themselves telling them they have to be perfect, right? Because it's very internal. And the same thing with the 9, and the same thing with the 8. Whereas for the 2s, 3s, and 4s, it's very external. And what happens there is that means every whim of all these people that are around you, it's super important for you to keep assholes away from you if you're a 2, 3, or 4, although it's almost impossible to do. But it makes sense because horrible people make you feel horrible, right? Horrible people for me, I'm like, I wish you well over there. Not in my life. If you're going to be horrible, go be horrible to somebody else. That is not a natural thing for a 2, 3, or 4 to do. So I don't know if that helped at all. Clarify a little bit.
Yeah, totally. My husband is an 8. So we're chalk and cheese, like we have carers coming in, and I think, oh, we get up late, what will they think of us? And he's saying, well, they're there to help us, not like, and it's like, yeah, so yeah, just all the way. Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Selma, to you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I shared this in my small group, but I wanted your feedback. This thing about, and it looks like we're all 4s here with our hands up. This thing about 4s being fixated on the past. And I think I've shared before that I do not want to, the past is, I don't like to watch movies. I mean, the past was painful to me. And I just don't like to look at it, go back there. I am not fixated on it. But what I am is kind of frozen in the present. So I was sharing that I have all these ideas and plans because we do spend a lot of time in fantasy, right? About how I want to do all these projects for my home, the yard and the remodeling and the landscaping. But I cannot get myself to take action and move forward. I would love to have more of a 3-wing so I can accomplish something. I mean, and so I was thinking maybe what it is for me is the past is so alive that I'm not aware of how it affects me, that the future feels really unfamiliar. So staying where I am keeps me from a really unfamiliar feeling, of which would be, thinking about if it's changed, it feels weird. I'll just keep it the way, and that was sort of a habit of my parents growing up too. So I may be attached to the past in the sense of not making changes is familiar. I don't know, but it's trying to figure out how I can make myself take some action on some of these things I really want to accomplish. I'd like to have more one in me, which is one of my arrows, because I feel so imperfect. So any thoughts about that? The past and not being
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I don't think that that 2s, 3s, and 4s are fixated on the past. I think that it's just very real to them. It isn't that they all the time
yeah,
necessarily,
that
it's
makes
very
sense.
real. So when
Yeah.
they do think about it, which is probably why you don't think about it, because there was
Too
harm there, you
painful.
don't want to think about it, right? So because a lot of people now, and a lot of the people that are the really knowledgeable ones will say the more abused you were or neglected or fill in the blank bad stuff as a child, like it's harder to find your true self just because there's so many layers of protection there, right? So, and I think that's part of it. And I do think this is going to sound weird, but forgiving yourself for your imperfections, forgiving yourself for whatever, forgiving yourself for, that feeling complete compassion for yourself because you're human is what gets you going. It gets everyone going. It just does. And it
Okay.
feels counterintuitive. It feels like the more I can beat myself with this
Yes.
stick, the more I'll get done. And that's
I'll
just
never-
simply not true. So
Yes.
that would be my
That
own-
will, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. I can't rest on my laurels by being good to myself. Yeah.
Heaven forbid, right?
Right.
Seriously, right? So Joy, are we at a place that we need to close the meeting and then we'll stay on for shares? Yeah, so we're going to say the Serenity Prayer, stay on, and those of you with hands up, keep them up because we're going to be around another half an hour, but we're going to go ahead and close this. The Serenity Prayer together. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things
I can,
wisdom
and the wisdom to know the difference.
Okay.
Thanks for recovering with us.